Hello everyone. Welcome to, well, the inaugural Total War Month 2017 multiplayer battle replay showcase thingy. As in, let's watch me win or lose at multiplayer games. Not spoiling the result of this battle yet, am I not? But no, welcome to the battle replays, which I'm featuring in Total War Month 2017. I've recently got into playing the multiplayer on Rome Total War, and there'll be some Warhammer coming out later in the month. But yeah, I've been getting into it, and I've been saving some replays of the more interesting matches I've played. So I thought, well, let's watch them together and commentate and see what we can learn. What's good to do in multiplayer, what's bad to do in multiplayer, or just, you know, did anything funny happen? So, what we have here today is a simple 2 versus 2 CWB, also known as Clan War Belt. These are the most common rule sets you find in Rome Total War multiplayer, which is usually just, you can bring only up to 6 infantry, 8 cavalry, 4 missiles, and no artillery or elephants, but artillery and elephants are usually banned in the multiplayer anyway. But the funds were quite low, so we were having to be a bit scrimpy with money, as it was the Team Denari were being shared out by 2 people. I'm playing as the Julii here on the right flank. My ally is on the left flank playing as Egypt, and he's currently facing off against the Seleucids over there, and I have the Greek cities to deal with on this lovely hilly farmy map. So let's quickly go through the army builds before we quickly hit the play button. So we'll go through my army first because I have the ego. What I've done is I've placed 4 units of auxilia on the flanks, and my front line is 6 units of lovely urban cohorts. And I know that kind of just sounds wrong when I've said, oh yeah, I've had to save money, but yeah, these guys pretty much ate most of my budget because they're very expensive, but, well, they're the best infantry that Rome has to offer. Backing them up are 2 units of Roman archers, and then backing them up I've got my lovely armoured general's bodyguard and 2 units of, well, not Praetorian cavalry. I would have loved to have Praetorian cavalry. I've got Roman cavalry because that's all I could afford at the end of this, because I'd basically spent all the money on urban cohorts. So yeah, I've pretty much put all the money in my front line, and then the rest of it has kind of had to suffer a little bit, so we'll see how that works out for me. And my ally playing as Egypt over here, where, because I can't zoom the camera over because I've got the game on pause, I can probably hit play now actually while let people start moving about. My ally has a front line made up mainly of Pharaoh's Guard, backed up by Desert Axes, Pharaoh's Bowmen providing the main range support, and then Chariot Archers in the back, and as well as a few more Chariot Archers over here. So he's got a pretty strong Egyptian army. Egypt usually has tough armies. As for the Greeks, who I'm going to be moving against now, as I'm just starting to move my front line forward because, well, I just decided, right, I'm just going to go for him. I will point out, this was my first multiplayer game in a very long time, so my performance here might not be that stellar. I was a little bit cautious. But the Greeks, they've brought some militia cavalry, standard Greek cavalry, incendiary pigs for some reason. I'm not really sure why, because neither of us could really have brought elephants to a battle. An armoured general, and then he's got plenty of Cretan archers, 2 units of Spartans, and plenty of armoured hoplites. So he's got a very, very strong front line here. Very strong phalanxes, so obviously counter-phalanx tactics are needed here. And he's also got even more cavalry on these wings. Now I'm bringing my forces out quite quickly. Cavalry's having a little move around now. He was trying to just try and see if we could pinpoint a weakness. I did try to bring my auxilia up as well, but I didn't really move my army all at once, so that's kind of opening up some holes. As for the Seleucids, they don't really come into play until near the end of this battle, because they just decided, well, not to try, but they decided to migrate their entire army to stand with the Greeks. They were going to create one just mega army. But the Seleucids have naturally bought plenty of cataphracts, a few standard archers, and that was actually about it for him, just archers and cataphracts. Because, well, cataphracts cost a lot of money, they are very expensive, but yeah. So we'll see how that works out, because I don't exactly have a lot of counter-cavalry units. However, the Egyptians, they're bringing their Pharaoh's Guard, who, while still gonna get pretty badly hurt by cataphracts, they can go toe-to-toe with them in a few instances, especially if they position themselves properly. I, however, was very, very vulnerable to these cataphracts. Now, right now, the Greek cities, they are just moving their cavalry forward. They're just having a little probe and a scout about. I do remember in this battle, the camera was actually restricted, so we couldn't see very far. Like, I mean, right now I can move the camera wherever I want, but I could not move the camera, like, past where's my army's field of view, so... It actually meant for some interesting placement, because that's why the cavalry was just probing around scouting, so he could try and get a better view. Meanwhile, the Seleucids, they're just trying to continue their moving up. Egyptians have decided to pull a few of the lovely chariot archers right behind them, though, but the chariot general himself's on the scene. Or at least, well, it's not the actual general, he's using a general's bodyguard unit. So he's pulling his archers back to try and see off the possible flanking threat from a chariot, which would probably be very bad for his archers. Speaking of archers, the Greeks have decided to just throw all their Cretan archers at me, which is not exactly going to be the best news in the world for me. While my urban cohorts are very lovely armoured, they can probably take a lot of damage. Those arrows are going to start wearing them down. Basic arrow attrition is what we're facing off. I was using fire arrows for some reason, mainly because, well, like I said, I haven't played multiplayer in a long time. I didn't really work out that using fire arrows isn't really the best of ideas in the world, unless you just need to break something. But for now, I was just using it to try and see if I can try and push a few of these Cretan archers away and see if I can get lucky and just start causing a few routes. Still getting a moderate amount of kills from the arrows though, so I wasn't doing too bad, but it was clear that missile superiority was going to go to the Greek cities because of all the Cretan archers who, well, they are just far superior to my archers at the end of the day. But now I've got my front line all nice and prepared, got a little bit of a mess going on over my auxiliary crashing, then others just like staying behind. Started to move my cavalry forward though, and my ally decided that if the Seleucids were going to join forces with the Greeks, we should do the same, so he's bringing his army in to back up mine. Some of the Greek cavalry though has managed to break into my flank, and well, that didn't really end well. Did manage to turn and face my urban cohorts just in time, but really my auxiliary were way out of position. And while I am bringing them in and starting to rout their cavalry, it's a little bit too late, and that's caused a few casualties, which, you know, those men aren't coming back to serve me now. You know, his cavalry's gone, but I was wounded a little bit there, losing a few urban cohorts. When the unit scales are this small, every unit does count. Meanwhile, my archers were getting absolutely toasted by the Cretans. So the enemy was doing a very good job of just basically making my missiles go silent, making sure I wasn't going to do anything. We were both exchanging flaming missiles at this point. I'm guessing we just all wanted to do flaming missiles. Wasn't really going to particularly rout my archer auxiliary by doing that, but it was always worth a try, I guess. Either way, my archers just weren't really putting in the performance they needed to put in this time. Did start focusing firing on the militia cavalry though, because I knew they were pretty weak units. They could probably be pushed out with enough shots. Don't exactly have the best morale in the world, but his militia cavalry were in range now to start peppering away at my urban cohorts. I decided there's no point in just standing around and just getting shot at, so I started to move my line forward while the Seleucid cataphracts, which were just hanging around, just skulking about, they seemed a little bit more interested in well, they were either going to flank or they were just going to move away and just deal with the Egyptians. But for now, he just wasn't very interested in fighting. He was just saving himself for later. He did bring up all his archers though, and all his archers have joined him, which meant I was just getting absolutely battered right now. Many of my cohorts were starting to fall. They were getting panicked by the fire attack, but luckily urban cohorts have such impeccable morale, it wasn't really making much of a difference. But as you can see, I wasn't really moving my lines forward very smartly. For some reason I was just zigzagging about. Obviously I was going to try and avoid a full frontal attack on these phalanxes, because doing that is just, well, suicide. But I was making it very, very obvious that I was trying to flank, which gave an invitation for the cavalry to try and come in. Some of which did crash into my auxiliary though. Others which didn't quite get the message and charge in at the time. Which meant, once more, another flank charge goes to the enemy. Not good again. My men started to just collapse. My urban cohorts started to collapse. And before my auxiliary could get to respond, the cataphracts just descended and just went in for the kill. Absolutely brutalised my auxiliary before they had a chance to do anything. And that was about it for me, because now the cataphracts were just free to move in now that my counter-cavalry was taken out. And my other counter-cavalry units were way over here, way where they weren't really going to be very useful. Should have probably brought them over here to deal with the cataphract bomb. But I was more worried about this Greek cavalry over here, which is now just charged in to join in with the general sandwich. I knew I was defeated at this point, so I just decided to throw in all of my Roman cavalry just as a last desperate attempt, but the cataphracts were armed with their lovely armour-piercing maces, and, well, the Roman cavalry just weren't going to stand a chance. My general didn't stand a chance, and he
for your general to fall on his sword, then live another day.
And there goes my general.
Has fallen and caused his troops much heartache. Much better to have lived.
So I guess this battle was a lesson in why the Seleucids are somewhat overpowered in multiplayer, and why sometimes they're either looked down on, or when they are being used, people will bring a lot of spear units, because, well, if you play against a Seleucid who decides to bring about 6 units of cataphracts, you know that you're not in for a very fun time. You will get nuked. This person was pretty much the exact example of how a great big cataphract nuke can very much wipe your army out in just a few seconds. So, yeah. Still, later on in my multiplayer career, I have started to use cataphracts myself. They're a pretty fun unit to use if you can use them right. They can pretty much dispatch any unit in the game, though obviously they do have their limits. They will die quite quickly to spears. They don't exactly like being bogged down. Lighter troops can sometimes skirt around and disrupt their formations. It's all about keeping your cataphracts maneuverable. That's the key to winning with them. And always making sure that if you're against an armoured target, use their mace. Now, a few units of my army have decided to come back and join in. The armoured pigs, by the way. Or at least not armoured pigs. Well, the incendiary pigs, they've just gone berserk at this point. They weren't doing anything. But the Egyptian player did decide to move some of his, more of his chariots into this area. But they were just losing in the missile battle, because the enemy just had so many missiles, and, well, at that superior missiles, with still a large amount of Cretians being in the game, and just a huge horde of Seleucids. But they just chose now to just start peppering away at the Pharaoh's Guard, which we tried to chase down the cataphract, but he was marching in phalanx formation, which made his units very, very slow, very, very obvious, and, well, extremely vulnerable to being sandwiched and flanked by cataphracts, who obviously were risking a bit, charging a spear unit, and even at that, it's charging a spear unit in the back, but paid off, knocked him off balance, and he could just quickly bring his units in and crush him. I'd thrown in my last few ditch units, but a cataphract had been sent to dispatch me, so my units were just struggling. Just my last few archer auxilia and my last few regular auxilia. Didn't really get very far. The cataphracts were more interested in chasing down my general, or what's left of the bodyguard, and then just came in and swept me off the face of the earth. So, overall, I did not perform well in this battle, I'm going to admit it, and to be honest, I wasn't angry at all in this battle. I knew I didn't do very well because, well, this was my first battle in a very long time, and I was a bit out of practice when playing with the Julii, so yeah. But what I did learn was some general tactics people do use in CWB battles. You need to be on the lookout for a lot of cavalry.
Day for Rome.
Yep.
That one of its armies would turn and run from an enemy.
That was my army out of the game, and it was just the Egyptians left, who had at this point just been well and truly smashed up by the cataphracts. And I guess the other thing I really did learn is, if you're against a Seleucid, you need counter-cavalry. While the Seleucids are a somewhat adaptable faction, and they do have access to good infantry such as Silver Shield Legions and Silver Shield Phalanxes, you can always expect a few units of cataphracts to be skulking about. They'll either be the main body, or they'll be doing a lot of support work, so always bring your best counter-cavalry if a Seleucid has entered the battlefield, otherwise you will get nuked. Same goes for Parthia and Armenia, who also have access to cataphracts. They're commonly seen, but with Seleucids, it's usually seen more. But I think that's mainly because no one really tends to play Parthia in this game, which is a shame, because Parthia can be a pretty fun faction if you know what you're doing. I do have a replay saved somewhere, I believe, of how to counter phalanxes using Parthia, or at least how to try counter phalanxes.
This is a terrible
and that's
day.
Egypt gone.
Our efforts were useless before the onslaught. Our defeat is measureless.
So, yeah, that was the end of it for me. I did a very bad performance there. As you can see, I just came stone dead last in this. While I did have the second least remaining men, I just got the least kills overall. And, well, yeah. My enemy did, well, my ally did slightly better than me, but as you can tell, it was the Seleucids who brought in all the kills for the enemy. Just with all of us phalanxes, well, they didn't have any phalanxes, did they? All of us bloody cataphracts. Phalanxes on the Greek side didn't really get a chance to do anything, so I guess that might have annoyed him, but I don't really know. But cataphracts, they can just tear through infantry like nothing, and as you can see, none of my men really brought in a stellar performance. One of my urban cohorts did manage to get their teeth in and get 27 kills, so good for him, but overall, not my best battle. Not really a good battle to start this month on as well, but hey, we've got a few more battles coming up. We've got sieges, free-for-alls, and I don't know, maybe a battle I won. You never know. But for now, I call that a day, and I will see you on the next multiplayer replay. Next time, it's going to be... I don't know which one I'm recording next. I'm just going to be picking them at random, or I'll just be doing them in the order I played them. Because I do believe my next battle was actually a rematch with the Seleucid player on a 1v1. And I chose a different faction. A faction I know very well, and don't really like a lot, but I needed to practice with them. So, yeah. Still, I hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you all on the next episode of, well, Total War Month 2017. Have a lovely evening, folks.